Hello, hello. Welcome to Stripped Down Sunday. This is Soul Evolution Collaborative, and this is our way that we are bringing the messages and teachings of the science of mind to you in a way that you get it one quick dose, and then you're on with the rest of your day. So this week, the theme is Share Your Dream, or that's the title. And it's share the dream with all of us. So the first thing I want to do is I want to have you ask yourself a question. Do you believe that the human race is expanding, evolving, and moving into a new thing? Or do you think that the human race is on the precipice and possibly setting itself up to collapse? It's a pretty extreme thought. What I want to talk about is the idea of what we expect is very important, of how we observe and what we think is going to happen with this future. We need to be aware of that. Now, we are all in this together. And that's the idea for this theme for the whole month, for the global themes for the Centers for Spiritual Living, is that it's based off of an African proverb that says, alone we can go faster, but together we can go farther. Now, something that Soul Evolution Collaborative that we have been really working on a lot lately is the idea of oneness, and that oneness includes everybody. So the human race, just by definition, when we say, we are all one, by definition, like literally, the human race is one. There's only one human race, and we are that. So, we have the metaphysical thing where we say we're all one, where I personally am a firm believer in that. I've experienced it and I know that. And we have also just the literal sense that, yes, we are all one. So what does that mean? What are we doing going forward? Well, here's the thing. When we do our individual spiritual work, our personal growth and personal transformation, the way that it shows up in our individual lives, it's how it shows up in our collective lives too. So what I've been really focusing on really since March of 2020, since right before we went into the COVID lockdown, is this idea that when we work on ourselves, it begins with a belief. Everything begins in the mind with an idea. And a lot of times what we do in the science of mind, and I know this from my own perspective, is that I've been constantly working on myself, working on personal growth, personal transformation, really making sure that I am intentionally on this upward spiral, always seeking higher expressions, higher ways of being. And now we have to look at this from the collective angle. What does that mean for the entire human race at once? I would like us to start to focus. And what I really want to get through today is opening up to the belief, to the idea that we are absolutely moving in an upward direction as a collective, that we are evolving. We're bringing a new way of being on this planet. I found myself back in March of 2020 realizing, as I was doing spiritual mind treatment, visualizing this world that works for everyone. What's that look like? And I had been doing this for a long time. And a lot of it was really focused around myself. How do I show up in this world? Which is essential. That's definitely where it's got to start. But then I realized that part of me was holding back. Part of me felt like, yeah, we're creating a world that works for everyone. But I was placing it off like down into a distant future and not firmly believing that it was possible in my lifetime. And I've interacted with some other people who kind of allude to the same thing. Like, it's almost like we don't want to appear naive. We don't want to appear, Pollyanna-ish, that, we believe, like we say it's too big. How can that possibly happen in our lifetimes? And we don't want to look like as if we're just dreamers and, not pragmatic or realistic. So I personally was holding back a little bit, that there was something in me that didn't really think that this was possible. And as soon as I had that realization, everything switched. Within, I realized what I was seeing in the world, what we're all seeing. We are seeing challenges building upon challenges, and they're expanding and looking a little more pressing than they have. The human race, we've always had challenges, but to me, it certainly appears that they are expanding. They are getting bigger and bigger and creating maybe a little bit more fear. Well, what I know from personal history, and when we go back to the idea of this is the micro to the macro. So on my individual personal journey, there's been times in my life where I have had the intention that I need to make a change. I need to do something with my life because it's becoming unmanageable, something that I don't want to deal or I don't want to be anymore. And I want to create a new way. And I set that intention. But then I stayed in my comfort zone and I wasn't taking the actions that I needed to take. Well, that's when, the universe, once you set that intention, the universe helps you. The universe is here to manifest what it is that we think or what it is that we choose to manifest. So in my past, and this is before I discovered, this philosophy that helps give me some traction and direction, that I really wanted to make a change, but I wasn't doing it. And the universe gave me more like desire, more inspiration to take that step. And I still wasn't doing it. And on a couple different occasions, the universe stepped in and just slapped something down in front of me, very challenging, and said, there you go. Now you can make that change, because I knew I wanted to do it, but I was denying that impulse within me. But the universe already heard me loud and clear that I really wanted to do this, and then saw me not doing it. It made it inevitable. Well, here you go. So this is how, and this is amazing how this continues to show up with Soul Evolution Collaborative. We've been seeing this over and over every single week when we have our theme. It shows up in life all around us. So from the micro to the macro, on a global level, the collective, the human consciousness, many people, many modern day mystics, Eckhart Tolle, Greg Braden, Joe Dispenza, Wayne Dyer talked about it, that we are shifting into a new way of being, that the human consciousness is elevating to where we get to experience greater harmony, greater peace. Now, we have set that intention. There's enough humankind from eons that have come into that realization that we are moving towards that. So once we set that into the universe and say, yes, this is what we want, if we're not taking the conscious efforts to move into that, the universe is going to help us out. It's going to help us out regardless. But if we put that intention and we don't take the actions, the universe is going to give us things that force us into creating a new way of being, which, it's something that the human race, we are very creative when we have to be. When something comes up that we have to figure out a solution or perish, the human race always comes through. So partly because of that, I'm very optimistic. So now that's what we're seeing on a global scale. The things are they're culminating. We see, environmental challenges that continue to increase. And we see economic disparities that are just getting bigger, and more people that are speaking up and saying this doesn't work. We're seeing, racial disparities and discrimination and, a whole slew of things that are keeping us divided. And all these things are just increasing and increasing, forcing us to get to this place to where the universe says, yes, you are evolving. You are moving to something new. And if we don't take these steps and make it a conscious intention, the universe will get us there. But that's going to be the unpleasant route that I would like to see this happen in a way that is enjoyable, that doesn't require the complete, absolute, something so challenging and painful that forces us into it. However it's going to come, it is coming. It's happening. So how do we do that ourselves? Well, one of the things to become aware of, and Ernest Holmes, the founder of the Science of Mind and Spirit, he said something to the effect of that each individual human being, that we are all spiritual radio transmitters. And that what that means is that our thoughts, our energy is constantly being broadcast to people all around us. And that's cool to know. And it's also something to be aware of. So the first reason to be aware of that is, what are we holding in intention? When I was talking about earlier, everything begins with the thought. So this is the first thing that I want us to do, is to become aware. Do we really believe that we are on a path to have a global shift in consciousness to where we can learn how to settle our differences in new ways rather than the ways of war and destruction, might makes right, the survival of the fittest? All those things have gotten us right to where we are. And they've served a purpose, and they have really created huge human evolution and progress it's become exponential. Now, if we want to see this new thing, we have to shift our awareness and say, yes, this is possible. This is something that we will see in my lifetime. I want to see this and know that we have gotten past all the trials and tribulations that will force us into a new way of being before I leave this planet. I want to know that that's there. So when we hold this belief, we're radio transmitters. We are putting that out there in the collective, and it feeds upon itself, and it shows up in the ways that we act because of that expectation. Now, the first example of when we manifest something, I use this, I think, in our very first video, like this chair. This began as an idea in somebody's mind. They had the idea, and then they executed all the different steps needed to make this chair a physical reality, something that you could buy and own. Now, if at any point, if the person that created this chair didn't believe that it was possible, this chair, it wouldn't be here. Now, theoretically, you could take directions to a chair to build a chair and make it happen. But if you don't believe that it's possible, you're not even going to begin it. So that's what we have to do in the first place, is move into a place of possibility that, yes, we are evolving. We see good all around us expanding. We see more people speaking up for those whose voices have been kind of silenced in the past. We see this. We see evolution happening. And we have to be able to believe that it is. And part of that is because people live up to our expectations. When we've seen this with the teachers and experiments in classrooms. When teachers were told that certain kids, and this was all random, they were picked random kids and said, these certain ones are all because of this assessment we gave them, they are getting ready to really expand and deepen their IQs. So then the teachers took this information, and those specific kids that they were told were going to happen like that had bigger leaps and bounds throughout that school year than the ones that they weren't expecting it to happen to. And the idea is that people and things live up to our expectations of them. And of course, teachers show up differently for those. They will teach them in a different way by expectations, and give them more encouraging words, where the other ones that they're not expecting anything, they don't get quite that same treatment. So we can see, like on a pragmatic level, how this is true, that things live up to our expectations. We see this in quantum physics through the double slit experiment is a great example, that photons of light, either going to be a particle or a wave, they show up according to what the observer is expecting. So we see this all over. What we expect to see is what we end up seeing. And, of course, we act in ways that help facilitate that. So the second part of this idea that we are radio transmitters, when we see the people that we feel, okay, we'll call them the others. That's one of the greatest problems for mankind, in my opinion, is the perceived division. The human race is one, but we have all these subgroups, and we see the others. Like, those people are preventing us from moving into a new way of being because of their beliefs, their outdated beliefs, their hatred, whatever. And so we see them as others. And we see them as the reason why we're not evolving into a better way of being. We see them as possibly the reason why there'll be humankind's downfall. We see that, and whether we believe it or not, we are transmitters. This energy that we hold according, beliefs that we have against the people that we call others, we expect them to do things that are going to be harmful, that are going to hurt others. And then we treat them in ways that demonstrate that we expect that. And then on an energetic level, through the collective consciousness, we are holding that those beliefs, which influence the vibrations that they pick up on. It's that just going back to the quantum physics, the idea of the observer influencing the results. So if we continue to see people as separate from us and as enemies, we're going to continue to create that reality. You hear this through the quote of what you resist persists. When you fight against something, you bring it strength. And what we're seeing is this division. This division, in the United States is clearly a political division. And we're seeing that also on a global scale. And it's getting stronger and stronger because we are both digging in so deeply and fighting against each other. So knowing that the human race is all one, that if we're going to move forward, we have to figure out how to get past this. And it comes down to the idea that we hate the actions, but not the actors. We need to deepen compassion and understanding. And now bear with me, because I know this is not an easy thing to hear. But when we look at people and recognize where they're coming from, open up with empathy and look at the others, at the whole chain of events that has transpired throughout their lives, one decision after another, one indoctrination after another, culturalization, family beliefs, all these things. Everybody has gotten to where they are through a unique chain of events. And if we can open up to a little bit of recognizing the spark of the divine that's within them. Everybody is a spark of the divine, a child of God, a child of the universe, a child, from where we all come from, whatever you want to call that. Recognizing that, and that we all have infinite potential within us, that through some other unique chain of events, I myself, could have gone down different paths. And I myself have gone down many paths that I'm not proud of, things that, that I, not necessarily wish I didn't do, because it's all contributed to who I am. But there's things that, I would be embarrassed to admit, things that I don't want to admit. And there's things that I'm still working on. And so that helps when I remember that. It helps me to give a little bit more patience and compassion with the others, recognizing that we are all part of this together. Now, as we move forward in life, recognizing that what we expect to happen that causes us to act and behave in ways that enable that to happen. So then it would behoove us to focus on this idea that the underlying reality is cooperation, interaction, that we're all in this together. Looking at, examples from the macro to the micro again. The human body, we look at the cells, the different cells that perform different functions. We have organs, we have, skin, bones, we have circulatory system, all of these cells interacting perfectly, that there is an inherent cooperation with that. Looking on a grander scale of how planets orbiting the suns and how the suns and different stars forming galaxies, and this constant ginormous thing that we get to witness, that there's this intelligence, and through that, like this calm. And at the same time, when we look at how stars are birthed and how stars go out, there's also a chaos, but there is an underlying order to it, and it's a magical dance. When we recognize that for the human, and we recognize that we all have this within, then part of it is that we can let go of the fear and the animosity. Now, this has been attributed to a character from a book who was named after a philosopher, Socrates, in The Way of the Peaceful Warrior. And said something to the effect of, we should commit all of our energy to building the new instead of putting our energy on fighting the old. So a little bit of this is, we don't have to condemn the actors. We still need to stand up when we see injustice. And that's where I'm going to finish this talk today. But we really have to have the vision of what the new will look like. What is it that we're moving towards? To ways where everybody's needs are met, to where we reverse climate change. We are ingenious people. We can do this. We can create ways that the universe and Mother Earth responds. We can visualize what food distribution will look like in the future, what communities will look like. Have these ideas and hold to that vision. And then when I say fighting the old, there's a difference between fighting the old and then standing up and representing the new of what we are creating. And that's what I'm asking myself to do. And if this resonates with anybody else, then I invite you to do the same. Wherever we're at in our worlds, holding true to this vision of what the future looks like, and that it is a possibility. Have to believe that it's possible, or we're not even going to begin. So we have to believe that this is a possibility. Where we are, where we show up, when we have opportunities to speak up and be the change that we want to see, when we see somebody discriminating against another, see somebody acting in a way of personal greed as opposed to something that builds more for the future. When we are in our own unique positions to stand up and say something, that is ours to do. And learning how to do that in a way that isn't that resistance, that doesn't create that same force and equal reaction kind of thing. It's more of a leading, of a showing, of a compassionate way of approaching it without belittling or othering people, relating and understanding where people are coming from, and offering, demonstrating new ways of being. When we start to do this and start to expect the best of people around us, that's what we're going to be moving towards. We have to expect this to happen. And as we see this and new ways of being, it will continue to unfold. There's no doubt in my mind that we are moving in that direction. We're just seeing all the little things out there that are contrary to it. And depending on how we respond to this is going to determine how we get forward in the future. I know the universe is pulling us forward. Now it's really up to us if we want to consciously take those steps forward, or if we want to wait until the universe pushes us forward through the challenges that arise. So with that, I want you to know that you are a powerful creative being, that you are a transmitter all the time. So let's choose our thoughts. Let's see the highest and best for the people around us. Even when we see behaviors and actions that we wouldn't necessarily choose for ourselves, and remind ourselves that there is something bigger and deeper within all those people around us that we disagree with, knowing the way that we respond, the way that we demonstrate and expect more, that's how that's going to show up. So we are creating this new world, and I appreciate you being here on this journey with us. Soul Evolution Collaborative very much appreciates you. We're going to finish here with a quick little, whether you want to call it a prayer, spiritual mind treatment, or even just a visualization. We're going to finish with that in a way that you can take something with you, a little bit of energy along the way. If you appreciate what we're doing, we appreciate your support. So by all means, check us out at soulevolutioncollaborative.org. If you feel like financially supporting us, all the contributions are tax deductible and very much appreciated. And other than that, share the message. If you like the message, follow us, subscribe on YouTube. All those little things help get the message to a wider audience. So we appreciate you. So all that being said, now, if the word prayer rubs you the wrong way, I get it, and that's cool. We're just going to do a quick visualization. So right where you are, just take a moment and take a deep breath. And then just, if you're comfortable with your eyes closed, close your eyes and just go within. And we're just going to visualize that there is something bigger in this universe, something bigger, that we call it life. It's the life force that moves and breathes all of us together. And it moves and breathes through all physical matter. And it is every corner of this entire universe and all beyond. And it is all that same mind and intelligence that exists everywhere. That intelligence that breathes my body also orbits the planets. It also is the gravity on this planet. It is the force that is constantly pushing us to ask bigger questions, to ask better ways of being. Whatever that is, there is something bigger and impetus within each and every one of us. So connecting and recognizing that each of us are that we each have our own responsibility in that. I know that inspiration is there. I know that as each of us go forward in our lives, that we are reminded on a daily basis that we are bigger than we have been in the past, that we are moving towards a bigger and better way of being, that we are seeing that we are stronger together when we move forward with this one idea, that we begin to build more bridges, pull down walls, that we get to deliver more food and forget about bombs and destruction and war, things of the past, moving into ways of cooperation, of lifting up one another, all of us, lifting up everyone with the beliefs of us and people that have beliefs different than us, that we hold everyone in this highest light, that this consciousness is unfolding right now on this planet through us. Knowing that that is all said and done, I just open up to this idea that there is a new earth unfolding right now through each and every person making this conscious effort into the belief and expectation that we are seeing this unfold in amazing ways all around us. And that I am that change, and that everybody that hears these words and resonates with that is that change, and that it doesn't take that many change makers to inspire those around us till this becomes a tidal wave of a new way of being. From deeper calm, deeper compassion, deeper kindness, deeper equity, and shared resources, that this is inevitable. So we can do this in a way that creates more harmony as it unfolds. So in deepest gratitude for this thing bigger than us that we are all part of that makes this so, I just say thank you. And I let these words go, knowing that it's already done. And so it is. All right, everybody. Thanks for watching. Hope you have a wonderful day, wonderful week. You are that change, and I firmly believe that we are moving in the right direction. Peace.